my chair makes some very good squeaky noises. Hello lovelies, welcome to the August 2021 episode of the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast. My name's Leslie. This is a podcast about knitting, spinning, crochet, anything that you can make with fibre and yarn basically, and probably a few other things as well. Recorded on the south coast of England. I record throughout the month and then upload on the last weekend of each month, so you'll sometimes see me in different places, wearing different things, looking various grades of presentable. But I hope you're all well. Thank you for being here. Whether you're a new viewer or a returning viewer, thank you. Lovely to have you here. Thanks to everyone who's commented and made their observations on previous podcasts. I also do a weekly vlog, which is not so kind of yarn and fibre related, just kind of life in general. And that goes up every Friday. So August, the glorious, sunny, gorgeous month where you just lie in the garden thinking it's so hot I can barely do a thing, which is why I'm wearing a sweater. It's a bit of a chilly one today. This is my Stillness sweater by Elizabeth Sullivan, I think. I will put in the notes, anytime you see me wearing anything hand knitted, I'll put the details in the notes below so you can see what it is if you're interested. Yes, so August, I'm taking a couple of weeks off work. I work as a funeral celebrant and I'm just having a couple of weeks to kind of clear my head. And meeting up with friends and pottering mostly, which are my favourite things to do. So let's talk about admin. I am running a make-along, a year-long make-along with the fabulous and gorgeous Kellyanne of the Yarn Tales by the Sea podcast. And we are doing an accessory mal. I went blank there. I nearly told you last year's one. No, we're doing an accessory make-along. It can be knitted, it can be crocheted, it can be any kind of craft wool related that you like. And it's accessories for the person, so socks, hats, scarves, basically anything that's worn that's not a garment, and it's for the person, not the house. So trying to keep it as open as possible. To be eligible to win a prize, please be a subscriber of the podcast, and please also be a member of the group on Ravelry. And it's run on Ravelry, but conscious that there are people who are not necessarily able to use Ravelry terribly well, if you are wanting to take part but can't use Ravelry, please email me. The email address is notquiteenoughyarn@gmail.com, and you can use that to send me a picture of your finished object or to make any comments about any of the posts that you're aware of. Although how you'll have seen those if you can't do Ravelry, I don't know. This is not a perfect system. But yes, if you'd like to take part, if you'd like to enter, please email me and I'll put a post onto the thread for you so that you're in the order in which I've received it. Almost a sentence, almost made sense. Let's go with that. We have draws quarterly. Do you know there's something about the word draws, isn't there? Yes, if you haven't realised already, I'm mentally 12. Very infantile sense of humour. Just in case you weren't aware, but I'm guessing you probably were. Yes, so we make a draw quarterly. We both have two threads in our groups on Ravelry. One is for finished objects, and that has a physical prize, and the other is for the chatter thread, and that has a pattern prize. And I must say at this point that the fabulous, gorgeous and wonderful Mars of the Hey Brownberry podcast has incredibly kindly offered to donate a pattern prize, and it can be one of her own or it might be someone else's. She is just the most wonderful human being. Mars is who I would like to be when I grow up. And I'm not saying that she's like really old, because she's probably younger than me, but she just has a way about her that I think when I grow up, I want to be like Mars. I don't think I'll ever grow up. You know, growing old is compulsory, growing up is optional. I'm very much of that school of thought. But you know, you meet some people and you just think, I'd like to be like that one day. Mars is one of those people. So thank you very much, Mars, for the very generous offer. So yeah, pattern prize offered by Mars up to, I think it's $15. Bless your cotton socks. Thank you. So to enter, post in the Ravelry threads. There's the finished object thread, which is a no chatter thread. So just post a picture of your item and a little bit about it if you'd like, what the pattern is, who it's for, the yarn you've used, anything like that. But please also feel free to post it in the chatter thread so that people can respond to it, ask questions, tell you how fabulous it is, that kind of thing. Multiple dipping is encouraged, so Kellyanne and I both have threads. Please do enter in both of our contests, draws, make-alongs, words, construction, sentence, one of those. And if there are any other make-alongs that you're taking part of, so I know there have been sock make-alongs this month, Barbara from Flame and Fibres Ode to Joy Mal, Anne from No Excuses podcast seasonal mal, or shelf mal, where you're using patterns that you've had for a while, or stash that you've had for a while. If you're entering those, but it's an accessory, please, providing the other make-alongs that you're entering are happy to have multiple dipping, we certainly are. So dip away, dip, crack away, dip, crack away, dip, crack away. Oh yes, and I do randomly burst into song, for which I apologise. Yes, so that is the make-along. And I have about my person, here it is, a small finished object. I have neighbours, that's radical, isn't it? And the daughter of one of our sets of neighbours is due to have a baby next month. And I thought, would it be okay if I were to knit for them? Because I always like to ask, you never assume. And it's a pattern you'll have seen before, and actually I think it's a yarn you've seen before, because I'm sure the last one of these I made was in this same yarn. But it's The Sweetest Sleeper by Simply Sycamore. And it is a really sweet little onesie with toes in the legs. So yes, it's in a machine washable acrylic, 100% acrylic, double knitting. It's coming up a little bluer, it's more of a purple. And I think, like I say, I think the last one I made was also this same yarn. And it's a really sweet little pattern. It's a paid for pattern. I think it works out at about £5. I think it's $6 or something like that. So it's just under a £5 for me. But I've used it 3 times now and will use it again. So for me, it's certainly worth spending not a lot on a pattern, because I'm getting a lot of use from it. So yeah, what I have found with it in the past, oh, I'm very good at dropping things on the floor as well. What I have found in the past is that the gauge on the original pattern is quite loose. So I tend to go down a needle size, but up a pattern size, adjusting for the length. But this is the 3 to 6 month, but I've used a smaller needle, so it will hopefully fit a newborn. I know she's having a little boy, and I hope she likes purple, because if she doesn't, well, I expect to see this in a charity shop soon. I may do that anyway, that's fine. It's a fun make, it's quite a quick make, it's a very clear pattern. Everything is very well laid out. So yeah, it's one that like I say, I've used a couple of times before and expect to use again. Has a good range of sizes as well for babies. So yeah, so a finished object. Now this is called the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast because I mostly make garments. I do make baby things. I make the odd sort of accessory, but mostly I'm a garment maker, and my battery's running out. Blast! Oh, one of the better things I ever bought was a second battery for this camera. So yes, it's the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast because I tend to make garments and I have a lot of yarn. I have 3 cupboards plus some boxes, but I rarely have enough of the same colour to make a single item. So we get a lot of striping and fades and colour blocks and yeah, whatever we do to use what we have. I love to look at the stash and think, what can I make with this? The thought of going into a yarn shop and buying a sweater quantity of yarn, bearing in mind that, you know, I'm a large size, so a sweater quantity of yarn for a 4-ply or fingering weight sweater is probably 5 skeins, so that's quite an investment. I would rather buy stuff because it's pretty, and that is what I do. So, ooh, that's pretty. Let it marinate in the stash for a little while and then think, what can I put with what, and that sort of thing. So yes, I haven't been buying yarn generally. Last year I did do quite a bit of a splurge to support local dyers struggling during the pandemic. That was my reason. I'm sticking to it. But that aside, I hadn't bought yarn for quite some while, and I'm not someone who, I mean, I follow a lot of dyers on social media, but I don't immediately then go, oh, I must buy this, even though I'm thinking, ooh, when I see it. But I have a lovely husband. Himself, he's a good man. He has been away a lot this summer. He follows a lot of sport, a lot of different sports. So he's been following golf. Our nephew's playing a lot of competitions. He's been following cricket. He's going to football on Saturday. He's got some rugby lined up. So he loves his sport and has been away. A lot of these things were carried over from last year because thanks to COVID they couldn't happen then, they're happening now. And if he's in a place where there's a yarn shop and he has time to spare, he goes and buys me things. He's a good man. And I've dropped one of these on the floor as well when I sat back down. So last week he was in South Wales, in Llanelli, and he had a bit of time to spare because the nephews were teeing off at sort of lunchtime-ish one day. And he found he didn't sort of say what it was. He's not always the greatest explainer, but it was a craft place. Yep, that makes it clear. And he bought me these 2 balls of yarn, these 2 cakes. So these are from Wool Cottage, Carol Webb. Carol has an Etsy shop, and I'll put the details in the notes below the video. And these are both hand-dyed British Blueface Leicester wool, DK, 100 grams, 200 metres. There's no colourway name, but they are both rather lovely, and I think they will work well together. They're singles, so I'm thinking of a cowl or something that doesn't have too much sort of the wear that you get between the body and an underarm, for example, on a sweater. Will cause pilling, and although BFL doesn't pill as much as some fibres, I still think because they're singles they might pill a bit. I could be talking nonsense, but that's my understanding. But because some of the pinks you have in here echo the pinks in here, I think either fading one to another, or I saw a cowl pattern where it's sort of light at the top, dark at the bottom and colourwork in the middle, and I'm thinking that might be very nice. So yes, they're quite soft and they're very squishy and rather lovely colours. So thank you to himself. I'll keep him. He can come home from these sporting events. He doesn't have to bring me yarn every time, but it helps. So I also was given some fibre. I'm a spinner as well as a knitter and a crocheter. Fairly recent spinning. I've been spinning for just under 2 years. I only know one way of spinning, and that's what I do because I like it. I realise that there are people who can spin thick yarn, thin yarn, fluffy yarn, taut yarn, I can spin. That's it. And a lovely viewer, Coral, got in touch and said she was starting a new hand-dyed fibre shop. I'm a bit blurred, which may be an improvement, but may not. Try that. And asked, well, offered me a voucher for the shop. Thank you very much. So it is Coral Rose Fibre Arts, and again I'll put her shop link in the post below. If you're searching for it, it's fibre spelt the UK way, so R-E not E-R, but like I say, the link will be below. And she has some beautiful hand-dyed yarns, so she offered me this amount of money and said spend it in my shop. So I said, oh well, if I must. No, I'm very grateful, thank you Coral, it's absolutely beautiful stuff. When she sent me the parcel, there were other bits and pieces as well, and she sent a lovely note, and there is a braid to give away to you lovely people. So I think what I'm going to do for the moment is, whenever anyone wins the make-along, I'm going to say, would you like yarn or would you like this gorgeous braid? Because I know that many of you are spinners. So I will give you the choice. If, however, people who've been making accessories aren't spinners, then I will think about a separate make-along for this. But yeah, so we have these gorgeous greens. Just really lovely. And this is 100 gram merino. So we've got greens into yellows and into sort of bluey jadey greens. So really lovely. And then there are the ones that I ordered as well, and she was very generous. Now she has sets of rolags. Now I didn't realise there were 4 rolags in each set. So I was very happy with what I got, and even more happy when I realised there was another bag. So we have these rolags here. Actually, I'll take them out of the bag now. Excuse the rustling. That's, if you're playing podcast bingo, excuse the rustling is probably one of the things, and that hand motion when you're doing something. These have got to, there's got to be a podcast bingo somewhere, hasn't there? Because we all do the same things, you know. So we have these fabulous, oh goodness, they are soft. Of course they're on the floor. So random rolags. So we've got this lovely orangey red. Gorgeous yellowy green, beautiful teal, and it has sparkly bits, so I'm hoping you can see the sparkle, and this stunning soft grey. So that's in the first pack. In the second pack, Coral has put a colour in that she knew would appeal to me, because red and black. I am in a local drumming group and red and black are our costume colours. So something gorgeous will be made from that and will either be attached to my drum or worn by me. We've got this lovely dark coral terracotta, no not terracotta, more of a coral colour. Pink with purpley blues in, and another sparkly teal, but this one has flecks of other colours as well. So thank you for those, Coral. And then we have the ones that I ordered from her site. So we have this 100 grams of merino. Look at these colours. So you've got darker oranges, got these kind of reds, paler colours. Yeah, really lovely, really, really lovely. And this one is so soft. This is Coral's Superwash Merino fibre, and it is just, I just want to keep squishing it. But look at these fabulous colours. We've got purple, we've got teal, we've got pink. just so lovely and so soft and fluffy. I'm really looking forward to spinning this. And I may have to change my spinning technique a little bit to do this justice, because I tend to spin a worsted style, so there's not a lot of air in the fibre, so it's quite a taut thread, so it's not the softest of yarn. I don't get that much fluff in it, whereas this deserves to be fluffed. That sounds like I'm being rude. Fluffed up, sir. So, but this is so soft that I want to, you know, give it the treatment it deserves. She also put in a little rolag and stitch marker and tea bag and a little thank you for your order item, and a couple of stitch markers, which I know will go out of focus if I try and do them here. So I've taken photographs of them and I'll put them in. And yeah, they will also be part of the giveaway because they're just so lovely. I want to share the joy. So we've got a pine cone and a bird stitch marker, or 2 stitch markers, 1 of each. So thank you again, Coral. Just really too kind, and soft and fluffy things in gorgeous colours. What more could we want? Mostly this month I'm working on relatively new works in progress, so I don't know that there'll be a huge amount of finished objects, but I will show you the works in progress if nothing gets finished. Thanks everyone, see you later. Hello lovelies. I did say earlier that much of this episode would probably be a catching up with works in progress, and I have different projects according to the different places where I'm working. Doesn't everyone? I'm desperately looking for a stitch marker now, a progress keeper. Ah ha ha ha! A progress keeper so that I can show you where I'm at. Marvellous. So the first one is a project that you'll have seen before if you've been watching the podcast for a while. It's going very slowly, the only reason being of where I work on it. And this is the project that I've been working on as I check things on my screen. So I read things aloud from my screen, and as I'm doing that, I knit. And the project that I've been knitting on, I think you saw this a couple of months ago, is the Rocket Tea by Tanis Lavallee. This pattern and the yarn were both very kindly given to me by the fabulous Valerie. Thank you again, Valerie. So yes, we've got all sorts in here. We've got some Ted Knits UK and some Fibre Fox. So Valerie sent me some Suri Alpaca and the Ted Knits UK. I've also got yarn here from Arctic Crafts. This was left from another project. I've got some Malabrigo. I've got all sorts in it. I've got stuff I don't even know what it is, but it's pretty and the colours are about right, so we'll go with that. I am adapting the pattern, of course. I'm adding sleeves to it. Now, there is now a Rocket Tea DK pattern available, and that does have long sleeves, so I'm not the only one with this brilliant idea, obviously. So this is where we're at. So I've split for the sleeves. I've done a bit of the sleeves. What I was doing was working down the body a bit, then doing the sleeves, and it will be no surprise to you to know that this was mostly to check yarn usage. So I didn't do a great long stripe on the body and then found I couldn't match it on the arms because I didn't have quite enough, you know how it goes. So that's why I've been doing it the way that I am, but also it does avoid a bit of sleeve island, because I know that I'm doing a decrease every 5th row. I've got a note of how many rows I've done at each point I stop, and so that is, it just kind of makes it more interesting to knit. This may well move downstairs to be in the rota of projects, which hasn't really been a rota, but because I would like to kind of make progress on this and get this done, because I want to wear it. So I'll put a progress keeper in. to show progress. It's a radical plan, but it might work. Do I have a progress keeper? Yes, I do. A little kitty cat. This was very kindly given to me by a viewer at Unravel a couple of years ago, so thank you. And yes, all the gorgeous things here, so marvellous. So there we go, that's going into there, so we can see where I'm at, whether I carry on with this whilst I'm doing work or not, who knows. The other pattern I've got up here, and I'm not quite sure why, oh light, strange, this I haven't done much on. This is the Catty Corner, and there goes my landline phone. Everything is chaos in its own way. Right, so Arsenal. Catty Corner by Nicola Suzanne. And I haven't done much. I did show you this a couple of weeks ago, I think, on the vlog. Very unusual construction in that you start at the neck and you don't swatch for this. You start at the neck, you take a couple of measurements. One's for the neck and one's for the body, essentially. I don't think I'm giving too much away on the pattern for that. And no, because you would have no idea how to make it from those things, so I'll stop overthinking and worrying. You start on the neck, you work a sort of V shape, which is the back neck, I think. Yes, it is. And then you join into the round and start working down. So this is all I've done. So it looks like I'm making a bandana for the dog at the moment, which I'm not, because we're not allowed to dress the dog, much as she would look really cute. But I am making this out of dark colours, mostly. So the majority of it will be in this, which is Candy Swirl by Stylecraft. I've also got some plain black Debbie Bliss Rialto DK. I don't think I'm going to have quite enough yarn, so I thought down towards the hem I'd put in some pops of colour. And this was some yarn that the fabulous Kellyanne of Yarn Tales by the Sea gave me because she felt she wouldn't use it. And I've forgotten what it's called. Do we have one with a label? Oh, do you know, you should get a professional to do this. This is King Cole Smooth double knitting. So, yeah, it should be a fairly kind of wearable, washable, practical type of sweater with a bit of a pop of colour down near the hem, depending on how I get on with the yarn usage. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to kind of carry on. This could easily become my looking at the screen pattern if I take the other one down to go into the rotor. These are probably details of my life that you don't need, but you're getting. So, yay! So yes, it's like I said, just really interesting construction. And forgive me because I can't remember who, but someone put a comment on saying about some of her other patterns as well. Now some you need to do a gauge swatch and then just have at it, whereas others like this one you just start and you base it then on your calculations and kind of work it from there. So I'm really interested to see how this will turn out, and especially with this striping yarn. So that will show the shaping, because you end up with a kind of asymmetrical seam. So I'm interested to see how that will look with this striping yarn. A lot of the projects that have been made of this already are using either self-striping yarn or stripes of different colours. It would be a good stash buster in that respect, because you could just you could fade it, or you could just put stripes in, and it would be interesting enough to show. It would look like you're being clever because you've got this asymmetrical seam, when actually you're just following the pattern. And I like things that make me look clever when clearly I'm not. So that is always a good thing in a knitting pattern, in a crochet pattern, in life. I'm happy to go with that. So this is where I'm at with these lovelies, and you'll have more works in progress from my usual knitting chair downstairs. Cheers. Okay, lovelies. It's almost time for the roundup of whips, given that I haven't made much this month. But first, looking at all this lot, I'm going to need a cup of tea. Hello lovelies. This is a new angle. I'm not normally in this room. Well, I am, but not when I'm recording. Don't want you to feel I'm barred from any rooms in my house. Hope the light's okay and the noise. I've got the French doors open so the dog can wander in or out. I say so she can wander in and out. She's asleep behind the sofa there, but the thought's there. Yes, this is one of the mugs that I got himself for Christmas a couple of years ago. There is a fly buzzing around somewhere, which I'm hoping will not buzz around and cause you an annoyance. Before I get on to the whips, which won't be long away, but the new pom-pom has arrived. And it has some very nice patterns in it. But I'm going to moan, because that's what I do. This sweater is lovely. At least I think it is. It's in a very dark yarn, so it's hard to see. And it frustrates me a bit. Now, one good thing about pom-pom is that they often will make the designs more than once for the photo shoots, which means you get to see it in a variety of colours. A variety of dark colours. Now, the way this is lit, you can see the detail of the stitching much better. And I think it's a really nice sweater, and it will probably go on my, what I would call my fantasy queue, the I'd like to make that one day but I probably won't list. See, again, they've got two versions of the same sweaters, but one is in a much lighter colour, so you get to see all the detail. Yes, there's some very nice patterns. Also in my fantasy queue, if I can find it in here, there is a really nice crochet sweater. Yes, that is crocheted. But I think it would be a very slow make. I think the stitches used would make it a slower make than I would be prepared to do for myself. But yes, some nice stuff in there. And always very good on the size inclusivity and that sort of thing with pom-pom. And I'm going to sneeze. Now, I've just sneezed, but that's probably because of the dust that have come off some of these whips. I'm not proud of that, it just is. So I'm going to blow my nose, but I'll spare you that. Oh, it sounds like the Titanic going out of Belfast. Right. Whips. Let's start with one that I purposely haven't touched for a while because it's a blanket and during the summer months is a little too warm to make. I was very kindly given a kit, an Attic 24 cotton kit. So the yarn is all King Cole Cotton Soft, and it is. But I wasn't enjoying the Attic 24 pattern. It's very pretty, it's lovely, but I wasn't enjoying the actual process of crocheting it. And it got to the point where I wasn't doing anything with it for reasons other than it's summer. And so I thought, I've got to do the sensible thing here and say, I'm going to make a different pattern with all this lovely yarn. I'm still keeping the spirit of the gift in place because the lady who got it wanted me to make a blanket so that when I curled up in it, I would be thinking of the people that it was bought in memory of. So that's a convoluted way of saying it. So I have changed it to the Which Way Fillet pattern, and rather than having stripes of colour, which I think is one of the things that was getting me down, because I like a stripe, but I like a stripe that you can kind of carry up the side and not have all the ends and the cutting and all of that, as you'll see in a project later. So I'm going for blocks rather than stripes. I have taken all the yarn and put it into as close to a rainbow as I can. And this is where we're at. So it's already quite a good size, but nowhere near as big as it's going to be. So I will put this back into rotation now that the evenings are getting a little cooler. If I put it into quarters and then show you a quarter, you'll get a sense of the colours so far. Not very well folded, I accept. Yeah, so that's the Which Way Fillet pattern, which is a free pattern on YouTube. It's a video tutorial, that's the word I'm looking for, which I will link below. And all the yarn is King Cole Cotton Soft, and it was bought as an Attic 24 kit from Wool Warehouse. Whip number 1. Whip number 2, and this bag was very kindly made for me by a viewer, and look, it's got a poodle on it. Good to see one poodle during the episode. This is a bit of a mishmash. Basically, here is a sock tube, and this was made on my flatbed knitting machine. And this is the other sock tube with an afterthought heel in it. Not one I particularly like. I've been trying different afterthought heels, and I can't remember what this one is, but it's not one I'll be doing again because I can't even bend it straight. It's just, no, not nice. I'll be unpicking that. Afterthought heels are great, but I find they don't fit terribly well. I haven't found one yet that does. And of course it's such a personal thing because, you know, you could ask 5 different sock knitters and they'll give you 5 different afterthought heels, all of which will work for them, but not for others. So I'm going to unpick this afterthought heel. And what I'm thinking of doing with future sock tubes, if not even with this one, I tend to want shorty socks. And so what I might do is just the foot part, the long part, which it is for a shorty, and then just have that done and then put the toes on one end, do a toe up, heel and gusset, and then just a few rows, because if I'm using the Rose City rollers as an example, it just has 15 rows of rounds rather of stocking stitch, and that's the beginning of the sock because they're made cuff down. So I could just do 80 rows and then I'll put a heel in and a little bit of leg, just enough to stop it falling off my feet, and that will be job's a good one. This yarn is Katia Ole Socks, new duetto. I'm guessing it's possibly not that new. It's a 75/25 wool polyamide or wool nylon, colourway 3004. There isn't a name on here. And this was part of some socks that I was some yarn I was given a while ago, last year I think. So yes, I will go back to this. So I was struggling with that because this particular afterthought, it was from a book that I've got and I can't remember what it was. Thought that might be a copy of the pattern, but I don't think it is. It's probably a shopping list or something. Yes, I think that's going to be ripped out. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but it's not going to be left like that because I don't like that at all. And I will get a pair of socks made at some point because it's getting towards the time of year when I might be glad of them. The next project is one that I've spoken about in the past, and this is my second crochet boxy. So it's just going to look like an enormous tube because at the moment that's what it is. So I haven't done very much, as you can see. These rounds are pretty big because it's a boxy and I'm getting in a muddle here. And what I'm doing with this is, the last one I made I used 4-ply weight yarn. This one I'm using some lace weight from the stash but used double to give me the same sort of weight. So I've got all sorts in here, and in my bag I have the yarns that I'm using. So I started off with this, which was a Lamington Lass. I'm not sure how well the colour's showing. It's a beautiful, really rich sort of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's in the red area. Good job I don't do audio podcasts, isn't it? At least you've got a chance of seeing what it looks like. I suppose it would be a kind of blackcurrant, somewhere between a blackcurrant and an aubergine. Or probably a bit of both because there's some slight, it's a tonal, so there's slight variation in there. I have some Silky Cashmere by Lotus Yarns, which is this blue. I can't remember what this dark blue is, and I bet I don't have a label. Then I've got some Fibre Spates, which is a variegated sort of greens into lilacs. I've got whatever this is, which I think is just kind of random lace weight yarn. This is, now I've got a label which says what it is, but not who it's by, and it's 70% cashmere, 30% silk, cobweb weight, 1,000 yards for 50 grams. It's coming up a little pinker. It's more of a sort of lavender rather than a lilac, if you see what I mean. And then I've also got another one, I think this is also by Lotus Yarns. Yes, it is. And this is, now it's called Tibetan Cloud Fingering, but when you look at the listings, it's definitely a lace weight. So my intention is to do a sort of graded, I can't even see that that's striped. There we go. No, not really. I'll try and take a photo of it and get a better picture. But I started off with the aubergine blackcurrant, striped it with the navy blue. I'm now striping that with a lighter blue, and I will work my way through the colours. Somewhere between a fade and a stripe is what I'm going for with this. I'm basically doing this, I wanted to, because I adapted the boxy, made the multicolour, the rainbow one, and I just wanted to write out the pattern and follow it again to make sure I understood it, so that when I wanted to make another crochet boxy, I wouldn't have to work it out from scratch again. I'd have a good basis there. So that's the idea. And it's really not showing the colours in here. I will take a photograph. I shall leave you out and untangle you because the yarn is all caught around them. Oh, no wonder I drink so much tea. There's nothing in here apart from tea and milk, I promise. Next project has seen a fair amount of love, and this is the Ritual Shawl from Mars, Hey Brownberry, and the needle length it's on is not showing it to its full effect, but you can kind of see where we're going with this. It's a really lovely pattern. It's a pattern that gives you lots of options, so you can vary it in whichever way you feel you would like. Most of it so far I have made with this cream sort of undyed white yarn, which I can't remember what this is, and I don't know where the label is. No, not a clue. But it's a 4-ply weight and quite soft. It feels like it's a merino of sorts. Oh. And then the rest is hand spun. So the very bright bit, which you've got in these stripes, is needle and thread. I had some of their rainbow Rolags, and I applied quite a lot of it with silk, which I'll talk about in a moment, but I had some left over, so I just applied it on itself to give this much more concentrated colour. And here's the one that was plied with the white silk. So it's a silk cashmere mix, which came from Witchcrafty Lady, of course, because when I've spun something, Witchcrafty Lady is usually involved. So it shows the difference actually from a spinning point of view, what you can do with the intensity of the colour, because all this is this plied with white, and it gives you a very different effect. So the majority so far is in this. I've also put in another, I've just started working on another hand-dyed, which is another sort of rainbow, sort of pastel-y rainbow. And this was from Demelza's Delights. And this has many fibres in it. So this was their Llama Love blend, which has got Whiteface Woodland, Rami, Llama and Bamboo, all sorts in there. So what I've done, started off with white, quite a bit of the plied hand spun with a stripe of the more intense colour, bit of white with a stripe of the more intense colour. My plan is now to do this until I run out, basically. Then we're going to have plain white with the stitch, until I get to the stitch number that I need. The beauty of this shawl is that you have a lace edging, which is also your cast off. So once I've got to the multiple of stitches that I need, having used up that yarn, I can cast it off. Now, of course, in the pattern, Mars does tell you how many stitches you need, but also, of course, I'm modifying it. It's what I do. I'm basing my plan on how much yarn I've got rather than the size of the pattern. So I'm using Mars's pattern as a recipe, and I really hope you don't mind, Mars. I feel that you won't. I've also made a slight variation because I'm going bigger. I say slight. Because I'm going bigger, I'm now changing it from a triangular shape. I've put in an extra increase, to kind of flatten the curve, flatten the diamond into more of a curve. It's a bit of an experiment. Might go horribly wrong, but we shall see. So my idea is that the lace edging will be in this, so we'll have sort of stripes going along the edge according to the colours. And it will be a warm and lovely shawl. So this is the Ritual Shawl by Hey Brownberry. And anything you like of this is down to Mars. Anything you don't like of this is down to me. I stress that. No, it's a really clear, well-written pattern, lots of possibility for variation, and then I'm adding some more of my own because that's what I do. But this has seen a fair amount of love. It proved to be a good portable project. I stayed at my father's last weekend, and because I'm at a pretty much just a knitting stage, the increases that I've got are easy to do. I don't need to carry the pattern with me. This is a good portable project. It's quite sociable when you're sitting around chatting, and yeah, it's a nice one to do. Now I've just realised I've got a rogue hook somewhere. Oh, it's for the boxy, that's okay. The last whip is something I've been talking about for a little while, and I've actually done very little knitting on it. But actually that doesn't matter because it's more about, at this stage, it's more about the concept. I have a shawl here, but I tend to be more of a garment maker. And I see shawl patterns online. And I think, oh, that looks great because you've got these different textures, you've got different colours. It looks really interesting to make because you've got that variety. But I don't. That was going to be do and then it was don't. I don't want to make as many shawls as I like the patterns for. I'm not sure that was good English, but I hope you understand what I mean. So yeah, I see all these fantastic patterns, all these lovely different yarns, textures, fibres, all the gorgeousness. But if I were to make every shawl that I liked, I would have enough shawls to sew together and cover the house, I think. So I have to think about logically how much will I use them. And anyone who saw my jumper collection would probably laugh when they heard that, but that's not the point. So I then had a thought, well, what is it I like about the shawls? Because it's clearly not just that they're shawls, because otherwise I would just make them and I'd have a shawl for every day of the week, / month / year. And it is that variety that I like. It's the different stitch patterns, it's the different textures, it's the different yarns, it's all of that. So I then thought, could I incorporate that into a sweater? And we're about to find out. So what I've done, or what I've started to do, is I started with a specific shawl pattern, which is the Climbing Mountains pattern. And I have mashed that together with a flax light. And so the idea is I'm going to do a flax light sweater, but with blocks of different texture and colour, like a shawl. Actually, I think the Climbing Mountains is a cowl, but again, details, that's not an important detail. So I have written out, sort of drawn up a little guide for myself of which stitch patterns. So I'm going to have blocks of different stitch patterns, different yarns, hopefully with enough detail to keep it cohesive throughout. Now, I appreciate that the tension on these different patterns is going to be all over the shop, but that's something that we could use to our advantage, because, I say we, as if we're all going to do this. The flax is, or the version that I'm using is just a straight up and down sweater, but if you wanted some waist shaping, you could have a panel of a stitch that pulls you in a little more, perhaps some cables or something that's a little more taut, or some colour work. If you wanted it to be looser at the hem, at the hip rather, I'm word mashing today like a good one, then a lace pattern would have a little more drape and flow. So there are ways to kind of think about this to hopefully make it interesting to knit, and an interesting sweater. Now this is a beautiful theory. This is a stunning theory. For some reason I'm really not enjoying knitting it. And it's not the fault of the flax or the Climbing Mountains, I'm pretty sure of that. It could be a number of reasons. It could be that I'm not entirely sure this is going to work, so I'm kind of reticent to spend the time in case it all goes horribly wrong. That can have an impact on my mojo. It could be that this particular pattern I'm doing first off, I'm not particularly enjoying. It could be the fact that the yarn I'm using has got quite a lot of dark in it, and so it's not always easy to see, given that it is a sort of knit and purl stitch pattern that I'm trying to read as I'm doing. And also, the flax has a top-down raglan increase, so I'm trying to incorporate the stitch pattern into the increase, which is why I have a lot of stitch markers on this thing. So this is only as far as I've got. And I'm not quite sure what's going on here. I'm going to persevere. If I find I'm really not enjoying this, I might just take it back and do a plain bit at the top. Get the shaping established, do a plain bit, or do a really simple stitch pattern that I don't have to think about, you know, every fourth row reverse stocking stitch or something like that. Just to give it a really simple start, so I can just rattle through it, start to feel comfortable with the pattern, and then move forward from there. That's the plan, because so far all I've done is this. So, nice necklace, not much of a sweater. So that's the theory, and I still think the theory is sound. I realise that there are lots of room for potential error in the execution, but that's part of the fun, isn't it? So we shall see. Like I say, I might rip this out and do a much simpler top, because I then started thinking about this, and I'm thinking, well, if it's that I'm not enjoying that particular stitch pattern, why don't I do another? I have stitch directories coming out of my ears. Obviously not literally, I'm talking figuratively, just in case you were worried. But I have a lot of stitch dictionaries. I could go through those and find a mosaic pattern, a knit and purl pattern, a cable pattern, a lace pattern. You know, I have the options here to not feel I've got to mash up a specific pattern, shawl, cowl, whatever, with the sweater. I can just think, what do I like the look of? What patterns do I think will go together? I am in charge of my knitting, nobody else. So that's where we are with that. That will have to be thought about and revisited. Excuse me. But it will be. Because I'm really still keen on the idea. It's just I found the execution not to be too much fun. Yeah. That is it with all the knitting and crochet whips. Now I do have one other finished object. And it's an unusual finished object for me because it's not spinning, knitting or crochet. But a lot of people are doing cross stitch at the moment, and I kind of jumped on that bandwagon a little. But I've done tent stitch, which is the half cross stitch, also known as petit pois. Not to be confused with petit pois, the peas. Obviously that would be very odd and not as long lasting. And apologies to Nadine in Normandy, who's probably cringing at my pronunciation of petit pois or petit pois. Anyway, I'll stop jabbering badly in French and show you it. It actually says, I've got reflection on the glass here, just living my life. I was going to make an item that said Maker's Gotta Make. And then I was thinking about it and I'd printed out, I'll go through my method in a sec, but I printed out the words for Maker's Gotta Make. And I don't know, it just seemed a bit, I suppose because it was a play on Haters Gotta Hate, and I thought, I don't want haters. No. So just living my life, when you're on social media, which is not good for mental health, let's be honest, but when you're on social media, you see a lot of stuff that you think, oh, these people aren't, they're just living their lives. You know, and people are criticised, sometimes rightly, but sometimes for something that you just think, is that really a problem? Is it really hurting anyone else? So I just thought, just living my life. Now this is a very imperfect piece of work for many reasons. My method is a simple one. I print off the wording, I lay the canvas over the print, and I trace it with a felt tip pen. Classy. I'm not someone who will ever do counted cross stitch, I don't think. I suspect that requires a level of concentration that I frankly do not have. What I then did, and this is where I had some silver coloured yarn. It's a Serdar yarn and it has a kind of sheen to it, and I outlined the letters in that. Then I filled them in with an acrylic yarn that I've got that I just love the colours. It's this rainbow and I've used it on so many projects. I bought it as a big skein from Alexandra Palace many years ago and I love it. I love the colours, it's really soft. It's an acrylic yarn, very soft. Just, there is something about it where it's like, oh, and I've woven a scarf with it, I've crocheted a cardigan for my great niece. All the lovely stuff. And there's still a bit left, about 50 grams of it left, so love it, love it, love it. So that I had done, and then I wanted to fill it in, and I had a vision in my head of wanting it to be like clouds in the sky. And so I decided to use some Stranded Dye Works Frostbite, which I've had for quite some time. A couple of months ago I made a hat for a friend with it. Now there is part of me that really balked at the thought of using hand-dyed yarn to make a cross stitch. And reality is I wouldn't have broken into it to do this because it was a partial skein. That felt more comfortable for me. But I thought I am in danger of going back to the Best China kind of syndrome that, not the China syndrome, that's a movie, the Best China syndrome, which is where you don't use something because you're saving it for best and best never comes. And I thought, well, why not use it for this? Well, the reality is, why not use it for this? Because the variegation is quite strong on it. And also, it's closer than I realised to the silver that I'd used to outline the letters. So it means they're not standing out as much as I would have wanted. I'm going to live with this for the moment. I'm going to put it up on my wall. If I look up at it and think, you know what, I'm still not happy with that, then I'm going to take it down, take it out of the frame, and outline the letters in either something really sparkly or a dark yarn to give that definition. But I don't mind that it has imperfections, because it's just living my life, and life has imperfections. This was also I don't want to buy anything new, I want to use what I've got, because I've got some lovely things. So I had the canvas, had the yarns, and then I was thinking, will I have to buy a frame? I thought, probably not. And I looked through, there's a sort of chest of drawers we've got with lots of old photographs in, and this frame had in it a photograph of, I think, himself's father as a baby. So that means this frame is getting on for 80 years old. And it certainly is very old-fashioned when you look at the back of it, wooden back. But I thought it's the right size. It's plain, because I didn't want a big ornate frame when I had all this colour going on. So that's what we've got. So I didn't buy anything for this, just gave it my time and my thought, and this is what we've got. Now you might be looking at that thinking, your time and your thought isn't worth much, Les. But I quite like it, and I'm going to put it on my wall, and like I say, if I do think, no, it's not really what I'm after, then I'll change it. It's very simple. So, the beauty of crafting, you can always change it. So that is it for this month. Precious little finished on the knitting front. I have another project which I haven't shown you as a WIP because it would take too much explaining, but I was nearly going to show it as an FO, and I was working away on it last night, and then I thought, why am I doing this? I'm going to stay up really late, be very tired, I'm going to rush at it, which means I won't finish it as well as I could if I were to allow myself the time. And for what? You guys don't care if I finish another project or not. I'm always the first to say it's not a race, it's about enjoying what we do. And it's very easy, I think, to turn our craft into a chore. People who do gift knitting will know that. It's particularly if you do a lot of knitting for a particular, for example, for Christmas, where you might be crafting for a lot of people for a specific deadline. It can then become a chore when it should be a joy. So I thought, I'm not going to do that, because you lovelies, you're happy, I hope, to see my works in progress. You don't need to see just the finished items. So that's the decision I've taken on that. Hope it's the right one. If not, sorry. No. But that's it for this month. August is nearly over, can you believe it? Nearly September. So next month there will be a draw, a quarterly draw in the giveaway, in the make along. I've got to stop calling it a giveaway. You are earning this thing. It's not me just being all benevolent, beneficent, both of those. Cheers. Words, English, they've gone today, clearly. So have a good month, have a good September. Yep, draw at the end of the month, but do feel free to join in with the make along and to multiple dip. This month I've noticed that the BIPOC make along is happening. More sock make alongs. There seem to be a lot of those around. Yeah, lots of different make alongs. So whatever it is, if you're making it and it's an accessory, please do join in with the MAL and have a chance of winning a prize. September, nothing specific planned for us. Ordinarily we'd go during September to visit family in Cornwall, but it feels like an awful lot of people in the UK are going to Cornwall, part of the whole staycation thing, and I'm going to have a word with my nephew and say it's not that we don't want to come and see you, but the thought of being on a train for 5 hours with a lot of other people doesn't appeal. And also I know my nephew is kind of, not that he doesn't want to see us, hopefully, but concerned about COVID numbers, and in tourist areas you will get a lot of people coming in, so the numbers do rise. So I think he will be okay with us going in the spring. Sorry, I think we've got a blocked nose all of a sudden. Sorry about that. yes, I think it's just plodding on, same old, same old. Himself has been away for a lot of July and August. He will be here for more of September. A lot of the sporting things have now been and gone, so he'll be around more. He'll probably be playing more sport. He'll be trying to get some golf in, I'm sure. But yeah, that's kind of it, really. So once you get into September, it does feel like the slow downhill until Christmas, but only if we let it be. So wherever you are, I hope you're okay. I hope you're having fun. I hope you're enjoying your crafting. I hope you're feeling safe. The world is not an easy place at the moment, but I hope you can find pockets of joy within it. And please do take care of yourselves. Keep well. Have fun. And I'll see you at the end of next month, or Friday if you watch the vlog. Thanks ever so much. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.